While adages like one man's trash or another man's treasure are something you're gonna want to keep in mind for this list, generally we've populated it with games I think we can all agree were pretty much a slam dunk. Whether because they had phenomenal stories, mechanics that felt oh so good to engage with, fundamentally changed our perception of what video games could be, or a combination of all the above, here are the games we're comfortable putting in the just about perfect category. If you haven't played any of these, that's something you're definitely going to want to fix. I'm Jess from WhatCulture, and here are 10 video games that are practically flawless. Number 10. Age of Empires 2: The Age of Kings. Now, I'll preface by saying this list is a general consensus gathered of your thoughts from all over the internet. It's not a personal list. That said, if your childhood was anything like mine, I bet it had a lot of Age of Empires 2 in it. Age of Empires 2 came out in 1999. The real-time strategy game was made by Ensemble Studios and published by Microsoft. It's pretty universally agreed to be one of the greatest video games of all time, so I think we're getting off on the right foot here. The game called on players to build towns, gather resources, and defeat enemies to cross off relevant victory conditions, all the while advancing through each of 4 ages. You'd play as one of 13 refreshingly different civilizations, and expansion packs would add even more. Aside from being responsible for teaching an entire generation of kids about history and warfare, this game was also a smash hit for a multitude of reasons. As far as improvements upon the original, the list was innumerable. The sounds are iconic, the look is classic, the multiplayer hugely compelling, and the controls and UI function perfectly to serve the strategy format. From its deep town building mechanics to its random map generator, AoE 2 is a hugely influential game in the strategy space. And honestly, it's still fun, which is saying something for a game that's over 2 decades old. Number 9. Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic. Now, I swear this isn't a personal list, I say for the second entry in a row, although this does happen to be my second favorite game of all time. BioWare are masters of role-playing games, and there's perhaps nowhere they prove that more comprehensively than with 2003's Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic. It didn't hurt that we all grew up loving Star Wars and devouring any game that would let us drive a starfighter or wield a lightsaber, but KOTOR is something really special. The game has satisfying character customization options, a broad leveling system that extends into speccing into force powers, plenty of fascinating characters to meet, and diverse planets to explore, all within one of the greatest stories that's ever been told in video games. Its performances are incredible, your choices and relationships with your crewmates develop in fascinating ways, and uncovering each piece of the puzzle that makes up the side stories and main campaign is a worthy pursuit, and one you won't soon be able to forget. The game sounds amazing, combat is a blast, and that plot twist will absolutely go down in the annals of gaming history. It should come as no surprise that the people who made Baldur's Gate 2, which could also be happily at home on this list, wouldn't let Star Wars fans down. But what they also managed to do was to create one of the greatest RPGs of all time. Number 8. Super Mario Galaxy. It's tricky to pick the best Mario game, as a good handful of them could easily take a spot on this list, but we're gonna throw our hat in the ring here with Super Mario Galaxy. The 2007 action-adventure platformer does a brilliant job of synthesizing all that there is to love about Mario and the long-running franchise. The game received overwhelming critical acclaim for its graphics, gravity mechanics, level design, music, story, and charming outer space setting. Super Mario Galaxy has a 98% on game rankings and a 97 on Metacritic, and if you've ever played it, it's not hard to see why. The game is an absolute joy to play, offering up a delightful playground to explore that doesn't cut any corners on looks or functionality. Though Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Odyssey are all fantastic, Super Mario Galaxy is particularly special in how it capitalizes on the nostalgia fans appreciate, while also piling on new mechanics and functionality that revitalize the franchise. Number 7. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. It was very tricky to figure out whether to put the classic representation of The Legend of Zelda's greatness in this slot by covering a link to the past, or rewarding the franchise's awe-inspiring newest installment, Breath of the Wild. As a result, we've split the difference and landed on what is almost universally agreed upon as one of the best entries in the entire franchise, and that is, of course, Ocarina of Time. The 1998 action-adventure brought our hero in green to the Nintendo 64 and to a fully immersive 3D world. From the grand hero's journey tale to playing with time, encountering all sorts of friends and enemies, reaping the rewards of exploration, and uncovering the hidden secrets of Hyrule, Ocarina of Time is a genuine gem. It still boasts one of the greatest video game soundtracks of all time, oozes charm, and balances adventuring, puzzling, and combat perfectly. What Water Temple and all, this is an adventure that should not be missed. Number 6. The Last of Us. Naughty Dog is a studio that's proved its mastery of writing, narrative, and compelling gameplay time and again. Though they have a decent handful of games which could earn a spot on this list, The Last of Us was pretty extraordinary in the action-adventure genre. The 2013 game introduced us to Joel and Ellie, two characters who quickly earned places as audience favorites. Watching the characters grow through the people they meet and the hardships they endure as they journey across post-apocalyptic America is fascinating. Combat encounters are also appropriately tense, challenging, and highly atmospheric. From the very first minute, The Last of Us is enormously emotional and compelling, and that carries through its runtime, which only leaves you wanting more. Visually stunning, wonderfully written, and a joy to play, it's an adventure that's very hard to put down. Fortunately, The Last of Us 2 is pretty darn fantastic as well, so that one will be waiting for you when you roll credits on the first game after its incredible high-octane finale. Number 5. Halo 3. Halo 3 may not have been the game that launched Bungie's legendary FPS franchise, but it is the game that took all of the learnings from its predecessors to create what was probably the most refined Halo experience yet. Halo 3 just about perfectly nails the essence of the franchise, presenting an epic conclusion to the original trilogy that sounded and looked incredible, not to mention its finely tuned gameplay. The fluid shooter mechanics, excellent multiplayer, and map editor Forge, which spawned fan favorite mode Griffball, cemented Halo 3 as a fan favorite. To establish the hype this game had and actually deliver on it is a rare feat in the gaming realm, but thanks to the new gameplay additions and the ever-impressive shooting mechanics, Halo 3 delivered a masterful FPS experience. Players also appreciated the variety in multiplayer maps and the story that featured interweaving elements with the relationship between Master Chief and Cortana at the heart of it all. For the classic Halo experience without the slight clumsiness of its predecessors, Halo 3 is the way to go. Number 4. Metal Gear Solid 3: Snake Eater. Much like many of the other franchises on this list, Metal Gear is a franchise that makes it very difficult to pick a favorite. Your favorite will probably depend on what you like best out of your Metal Gear games, but there are a good portion of fans who single out Metal Gear Solid 3: Snake Eater as the best of the bunch. The moment-to-moment gameplay, engrossing story, and memorable characters impress players in particular, not to mention the locations riddled with things to find, new approaches to discover, and secrets that add to the world building and narrative as a whole. The stealth gameplay and style is iconic, the narrative is dense and cinematic, and the end-to-end experience is hugely memorable. Hideo Kojima is a master at creating games that really feel like they're a step above of anything else that you can find, and Metal Gear Solid 3 is a perfect example of that. Number 3. BIOSHOCK. The impact of each subsequent BIOSHOCK game may not have landed as universally well with gamers as the first, but that's probably because, to be fair, the original game set the bar incredibly high. The 2007 adventure FPS developed by 2K Boston and 2K Australia offers up an enthralling dystopian world to explore. Jumping off of the similarly excellent System Shock series, BioShock began as a spiritual successor, but beautifully established itself with exciting gameplay, varied powers, and plot threads that are a joy to watch unravel. Much like The Last of Us, BioShock has a narrative that will absolutely stand the test of time with gamers. The creepy enemy designs, inventive underwater setting, and dense backstory make for an intriguing foundation on which to shoot and plasmid execute your way through Rapture's labyrinthine environments and not-so-friendly inhabitants. The dark beauty of the game, its two-faced figureheads, and your journey to the truth are as enjoyable in the first playthrough as they are in the second, and every one after that. Number 2. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. The only difficult thing about putting Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 on this list is trying to decide whether its soundtrack or its gameplay is the bigger draw. The skateboarding game made by Neversoft and published by Activision defined an awful lot of childhoods. And why wouldn't it? Eurogamer even declared it the quote, supreme champion of extreme sports gaming. And if you've lost dozens or hundreds of hours to this one, I'm betting you don't disagree. The controls are tight and responsive, the graphics were impressive for the time, the levels are enjoyably large, and it struck the perfect balance between realistic and silly. The Tony Hawk games really are the franchise that keeps on giving, so if this particular game isn't your entry of choice, just sub in your favorite for this one. Number 1. Portal 2. I may have done something controversial here in choosing Portal 2 over Portal, but it's only because of how excellent and groundbreaking the original was that the sequel was able to be even better. So if you disagree with this one, let's just call it an honorary nod to both games. Portal 2 is clever, funny, endlessly satisfying, challenging to the perfect degree, narratively nuanced, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. It controls like a dream and really challenged the idea of what a puzzle game was capable of being, especially one that primarily concerned itself with physics puzzles. While the single player offers up excellent level design and mechanics to mess around with alongside an intriguing story to unravel, the co-op mode is equally as enjoyable to crack into on the side. Between the dark humor, the sound design, the deep lore, and the creation of one of gaming's best villains, there's just so much to love in Portal 2. If you haven't played it yet, go grab it for a handful of dollars and you've got a great evening ahead. I'm making a note here. Huge success. The only thing stopping this one from being an absolutely perfect game is that it's made by Valve, so there's no way we're ever getting a third one. That's the end of our list, but do let me know down in that comment section which video games are practically flawless to you. As always, I've been Jess from WhatCulture. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you like, you can come say hi to me on my Twitter account where I'm at Jess McDonald, but make sure you stay tuned to us here for plenty more great gaming lists.